What's up, snappers? Welcome back to the channel. Drewski here. Today we're gonna be looking at the brand new card Nova Frankie Raye to see if she's worth her precious resources. We're gonna be looking at her key Synergies Counters and some decks that I brewed for her. But wait, before we do that, please like the video, please subscribe to the channel. I do weekly reviews of the brand new card in Marvel SNAP, so if you don't want to miss out, hit that notification bell right now. And let's get back into it. I forgot to mention I'm running another giveaway for PAX Bundles. If you want to enter in the giveaway, follow the instructions in the description below, and good luck to everyone that's entering in the giveaway. Now the question is, who is Nova Frankie Raye? Let's take a look. So Nova Frankie Raye is a 2-cost 3-power card with the ability of after the next time you play a 6-cost card, double this card's power. For this card, being able to grow to 6 to 12 to even 24 power is crazy for a 2-cost card. It really depends on how many times you can play a 6-cost card. On average, I would say that this card can definitely grow 2 times. 3 times is definitely pushing it, but even 1 time growing into a 6-powered card, 2 costs, 6 power is definitely very good for its cost. I think a lot of people are definitely worried about the power growth of this card. Obviously, there are counters that I will explain later in the video, but the power potential of this card is very dependent on when you play the card. So there's a lot of control there, and it might be unshankable at certain moments of the game. Now let's take a look at the pros and cons of Nova Frankie Raye. So the first pro that I want to talk about is that it's a low cost and early curve. 2-cost card is awesome. It's very competitive in the current moment of Marvel Snap. There's a lot of very good 2-cost cards. Nova Frankie Raye maybe has the potential to be one of those, but we will see. I would say that this card is definitely very nice because you can play it on turn 2 or maybe even potentially earlier than that. But the early curve is very good for this card because you want this passive ability to be just there on the board, and then you can keep growing out that power whenever you want. It takes time to generate power, so it's harder to get countered by Shang-Chi and other counter cards. So it really depends if you are going to be playing out those 6-cost cards. You can be the deciding factor on when you want to play out those cards. So you could tend to usually avoid those big counter cards. The last point that I want to talk about is that it's hard for the opponent to figure out the power. It really depends on the situation. If for your opponents, they're going to be confused if it's going to be a 6-power card, 12-power card, 24-power card. It's going to be very hard for them to know when to counter this card. So it's definitely a benefit of the confusion of your opponent. Now let's talk about the cons. Requires to ramp out the 6-cost cards out early. It really depends if you want to grow out the power early for this card. Maybe you definitely want to save out those 6-cost cards later, but the later that you save up those cards, then you might run out of turns or enough energy to play out those cards. So it really depends on how you deck build for this particular card. Makes your board vulnerable to counters. This card, you are being rewarded for playing out those 6-cost cards early. Most of them have a lot of power, so you are susceptible of getting countered very heavy. Your opponent's going to know, oh, this power is going to be here. I'll just tech against this, and your board might be very vulnerable. The last con that I want to talk about is that you have to play the card. You can't cheat it out on the board. So for example, cards like Lockjaw that bring out a card on the board, that should not count towards this card because you have to play out the 6-cost card. Another example is Blink. You can't ramp out a certain card out of your deck to play out on the board. I don't think that will count. You definitely have to play out the 6-cost card in order to gain the effect of Nova. Isan is another example of a card that cheats out a card on the board from your hand, and that will not count towards Nova. Now let's take a look at some of the key synergies and counters for Nova Frankie Raye. So the first synergy that I want to talk about is Mr. Fantastic First Steps. You can say that he's a synergy for every single card in Marvel Snap, but in particular for this card, he can discount your 6-cost cards, so you can potentially play them out early, right? Getting those 6-cost cards on the board, a lot of value for Nova Frankie Raye. She-Hulk is another synergy for this card in particular because she could get discount in costs, and then potentially you could play her out early, even double her up. That might be a spoiler for some of my decks. But she has great synergy because she's a 6-cost card for Nova. The last synergy that I want to talk about is Arishem. Of course, Arishem gives out that max energy to allow you to play out those 6-cost cards early. And Arishem decks usually allow you to have more 6-cost cards in your deck because of that max energy. So more 6-cost cards are very good for Nova. Now let's talk about the counters. Of course, Shang-Chi is a counter for this card. Getting that proc twice, being a 12 power card for Frankie Raye Nova, Shang-Chi will definitely destroy it. Shadow King, amazing counter against this card because he will revert that power, all that doubling up of power, back to normal with his ability. And the last counter that I want to talk about is Red Guardian. Of course, Frankie Raye Nova 3 power is relatively low, so more than likely Red Guardian should be able to disable this ability's effect. Now let's take a look at the decks that I brewed. I think they're pretty fun and competitive. Let's take a look. So the first deck that we have is called the High Nova Evo. This is my iteration of the High Evo archetype. I believe Frankie Raye Nova works very well because of all the 6-cost cards that we have in this list, and they already synergize very well together. Sunspot is a great addition to this list because you're going to be floating a lot of energy, so he's going to be gaining that power. Misty Knight is another great pick in this list because whenever you're floating that energy, then you're getting more power to the board. Mr. Fantastic and Surge are great energy options for this list. Discounting cards, adding power is going to be very valuable in this list. Frankie Raye Nova is a great addition to the High Evo archetype because of Red Hulk, She-Hulk, Hulk, all the discounting of cost, even additional power from Mr. Fantastic and Surge. Magic is here to extend the game. More turns is definitely very valuable in the High Evo archetype. You definitely want that 7th turn to be able to play more 6-cost cards. Cyclops is here for our turn 4 play. You definitely want to play him off curve to utilize his -1 power. Invisible Woman has amazing synergy with this list because there's a lot of cards that have the end of turn ability like Sunspot, Misty Knight, Red Hulk, Hulk. High Evo is here just to enable the abilities. More than likely you're not going to be able to play him, or if you really need to, you can play him. Red Hulk is here to punish your opponent when they're not utilizing their energy correctly. She-Hulk is an amazing card in this list to basically float turn 6 to get a 0-cost She-Hulk. Hulk is here to generate power whenever you're not using energy, and he synergizes very well with Invisible Woman. Now let's take a look at the second list. Now this list is called Nova Arishem. Just like I mentioned, I believe that Frankie Raye Nova works very well with Arishem. Arishem provides that max energy for your list, allowing you to add more 6-cost cards. So I believe that these 6-cost cards will work very well with Frankie Raye Nova. Quinja is here to discount the cards that were created by Arishem. Armor is here to protect our big powered cards in this list, potentially protecting cards like Frankie Raye Nova, Blob, Isan. Nova Frankie Raye has great synergy with this list with all the 6-cost cards like I mentioned. Blob, Eliath, Mockingbird, Isan, and even the cards that have been created by Arishem that are 6 costs. Iron Patriot is a great card to create a 4, 5, or 6-cost card. We are definitely aiming to create a 6-cost card from him, and then potentially you can play that 6-cost card with Frankie Raye Nova. Shang-Chi and Enchantress are here as our counter cards. You could use it, Shang-Chi for those big powered lanes, or Enchantress for those pesky ongoing lanes. Legion is here to throw off our opponents. Definitely a big surprise card. If you play him on the last turn, you can definitely gain some cubes. Blob is a great addition to this list because he can absorb the power from the cards that have been created by Arishem, and he definitely synergizes with Frankie Raye Nova. Eliath is a great finisher to protect your big powered cards. You could remove their abilities. Mockingbird works very well with Arishem, especially all the cards that have been created by Arishem, and more than likely you should be able to discount her very well, and she synergizes very well with Frankie Raye Nova. Isan, like I mentioned, doesn't work directly with Frankie Raye Nova, but being able to cheat out a card that's been created by Arishem is always very valuable. And if you decide to play Isan, of course, Isan itself does count towards Frankie Raye Nova. Arishem is here, of course, just to create the cards. More than likely, you're not going to be able to play Arishem, or if there's a turn 7, sure, you can play Arishem. Now let's take a look at my third and final list. Now this list is called Double Up Nova. This is my fun list with Frankie Raye Nova. You can double up low cost cards in your list and have a big explosive last turn play. Sunspot is a great 1-cost card in this list because he's relatively cheap. You could double him up with Moon Girl, and he has synergy with She-Hulk. Ant-Man is here to fill certain lanes to get that +4 power. Hydra Bob and Titania are here primarily for their low cost and high power. Mr. Fantastic and Surge are here to discount cards or give them additional power. Black Swan is a great turn 5 play. You definitely want to play her out early so you can activate her on turn 5 to discount your 1 cost and flood the board with all the 1 cost cards. Nova Frankie Raye, on average, I would say that more than likely you should be able to pull off the ability at least once, potentially twice with the Moon Girl interaction, but if anything, you definitely can potentially get her ability to go off once with the one She-Hulk at least. Hit Monkey is here to be played on the last turn as an alternative win con with all these 1 cost cards that you're discounting, or the 0 cost from Black Swan. You definitely want to flood the last turn with a bunch of 1 costs with Hit Monkey. Gwenpool is a great turn 4 option to generate more power in this list. A great target is Frankie Raye Nova with Gwenpool or any of those 1 cost cards. Moon Girl is here to bring the fun. You definitely want to use her to duplicate cards like Sunspot, Ant-Man, Hydra Bob, Titania. She-Hulk is a great option as well. Even Hit Monkey, those are great options to duplicate. She-Hulk is our only 6 cost card in this list. Of course, it's going to feel very bad if you're not able to draw her for the Frankie Raye Nova value. But if anything, more than likely you should be able to at least play her at least once. If you could duplicate her and play her twice, definitely very valuable for Frankie Raye Nova. Now let's take a look at the snap packs that are featuring Nova Frankie Raye. So Nova Frankie Raye is with Stardust, the Fallen One, and Cosmic Ghost Rider. Mr. Fantastic First Steps, Stardust are already out in the game. Nova Frankie Raye is on the 12th, the Fallen One on the 19th, and Cosmic Ghost Rider on the 26th. Stardust was released last week. A lot of people in the community are very scared of this card because it counters a lot of archetypes. So if you like a tech card, I would say it's definitely safe to pick up Stardust. If you're not a huge fan of tech cards, then you can definitely skip on Stardust. The Fallen One and Cosmic Ghost Rider I have not reviewed yet, so I will review them in the future. And then we have Frankie Raye Nova. It really depends if you want to use your tokens to pick her up through this snap pack. Remember guys, to have 5k tokens before opening this seasonal series 5 snap pack. You definitely don't want to have FOMO on missing out on a certain card that you really want, and you have the potential of getting older cards, so be careful of that. Now let's take a look at the community prediction for Nova Frankie Raye. So the community has said S tier 10%, A tier 27%, B tier 54%, and C tier 8%. So the community overall believes that Nova Frankie Raye is a B tier card. Here is a review from the community. Thank you again, June Throne, for your comment. They said, decent card with the potential between 6 and 12 power in most games, which is definitely above rate for 2 costs. Not a flashy card, but not bad. Could work great with Thanos between A and B tier. So I agree with the statement 100%. Unfortunately, I didn't make a Thanos build, but potentially it could work with Thanos. For her being a 2 cost card and reaching 6 and 12, like they mentioned on average, is very good for a 2 cost card. There's not a lot of 2 cost cards that have a lot of power with no negative benefits, so this card definitely has tremendous value being a 2 cost card. Now let's take a look at the star ratings that I gave for Nova Frankie Raye. So for competitive, I gave her a 4 out of 5 stars. I believe that this card has immense amount of potential if you build out your deck correctly to build her up in power. I would say on average, getting it off twice the ability with being a 12 power card, being a 2 cost card is crazy. So I don't think it's that hard of an ability to achieve. So I gave her a 4 out of 5 stars. Competitive, 4.5 stars. I think a lot of people love growing power in Marvel Snap, so I think the fun chain is off the roof. Flexibility, 3.5 stars. Saw that decks that I brewed, pretty flexible, am I right? Really depends if you juice up more and more 6 cost cards with her. And I think the card is primarily flexible depending on how you build out the card. Future changes, I gave her a 3 out of 5 stars. It really depends on how crazy this power potential grows. If it's too powerful, then I could see her definitely being lowered in power potentially, maybe a 2-2. This card is definitely not going to get buffed. I don't think it's going to be needing more power. So if anything, it'll be a nerf. Now let's take a look at my final review of Nova Frankie Raye. Is she worth a sniper skip? Let's take a look. So for seasonal series 5 snap pack, 4.5 stars. I believe this card is definitely worth picking up if you want to use your snap pack on her. I think it's definitely better to get it now before that pack becomes diluted with other cards. For Series 5 Snap Pack, I gave her a 3 out of 5 stars. I think that she is going to be worth picking up earlier. If she's with a lot of older cards, it's going to be tough to justify picking her up. So I gave her a fair 3 out of 5 stars. 6K tokens, 4 out of 5 stars. I think she definitely has potential of being picked up if you wanted to get her alone. Definitely the power potential is really good. So I would say she's definitely worth 6K tokens. And my overall star rating for this card, I gave her a 4 out of 5 stars. With that all being said, I would say Nova Frankie Raye is a snap. I think she's definitely worth picking up. I think the power is really good depending on how you could build for her. Obviously, if you're missing a lot of 6-cost cards in your collection, then definitely skip on this card. But I would say the future is definitely bright with this card because the more 6-cost cards that come out to the game definitely brings value to this card. And you saw the decks that I brewed. I think she could definitely fit in a lot of competitive decks as well. So if you like a very good, strong card, I think her potential is really good. Even though the community says that she's a B tier card, I believe she's definitely better. But I could be completely wrong. Maybe it's really dependent on your draw. I could be completely wrong if you can even get any power to go off with this card. So maybe this is a hot take, pun intended, that this card is definitely better than what people are expecting or thinking. I think the potential is there. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe it's very dependent on your draw, being able to play out those 6-cost cards early or playing them later. But I think there's a lot of tools in the tool shed that give this card the ability to play out those cards out earlier. I'd even mention cards that can cheat out cards early, like Luna Snow, Hope Summers, even Electro. You can ramp out cards even earlier, like those big cost cards. So there are a lot of ways to get those big cost cards out early for Frankie Raye Nova. So let me know your thoughts on Nova Frankie Raye. Am I completely wrong? Did I miss any synergies? Did I miss any decks that works well with her? Are you picking up the card with tokens or snap packs? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this video useful, give it a like. Please subscribe to the channel. I would love for you to be part of this amazing community here on YouTube. And I'll see you guys in the next Snapper Skip. Happy snapping.